Hey everyone, my name is Ismael Carreras, and I'm the Associate Dean for Strategic Analysis within the Administration and Finance unit of the Harvard FAS. If you're new to using text-based generative AI models like ChatGPT or our very own AI Sandbox, but you're not sure how to get started or how these might help you in your job, well, don't worry, I got you. When I first heard about these AI systems not too long ago, I'll admit I was a bit lost. I didn't really understand what they could and couldn't do, but out of curiosity, I started speaking with some colleagues who knew much more about these types of models than I did, and I started experimenting with just some basic requests. And it's really through trial and error where I became much more comfortable interacting with the models and identifying where they could be truly useful assistants in my everyday work. I've been using it to draft written text content like memos or emails, outlines, or even speaking notes. I'll describe what I want to communicate, and then the model will suggest content that I can then edit and refine. It's also useful for wordsmithing, where I can ask the model to suggest alternative verbiage when I've already used a particular word or phrase in my writing, or I just want to come at it from a slightly different angle. So I might say something like the report analyzed several key topics in a paragraph. So I might ask, can you suggest some alternative words to say topics? And it'll generate a series of options like area of focus or issues covered that I could then consider using in place of a repeated term to keep my writing more interesting and fresh for others. I can use it to summarize content. So for things like long reports or articles or meeting transcripts, I can upload the document to the engine and create a first draft of a summary in short order. And this can be a huge time saver versus trying to review things manually. For example, I took a 23-page text document of a meeting transcript that was generated from Zoom. And in less than 5 minutes, I had a pretty good first draft of minutes that I was able to share with my colleagues. I also use it to help with my visual creativity, where I might ask the model to recommend some appropriate icons or images to represent concept or ideas that I want to use. Or I could even have it suggest for different kinds of color combinations or even font combinations. I've done that too. Speaking of visual creativity, I've even asked it to help me generate an easy to remember acronym for a new concept that I was developing. Like, can you come up with a list of acronyms that describe a process for analyzing data with a natural language engine that's powered by generative AI? And it gave me some really cool options. It can also provide step-by-step instructions. These tools can be useful for providing instructions to a colleague, like explaining how to do something in a software program, or walking someone else through a process, maybe because I'm going on vacation. And it can generate examples tailored exactly to my needs. Like, can you walk me through the process of creating a cash flow model in Excel using the list of income and expense categories that I'll provide to you? And one of my favorite areas to use generative AI is to write statistical code. I use a program called R for data wrangling and data analysis, but it's not the easiest language to work with, especially if you've come from other packages. What I like to do is ask the model how to do something specifically for my use situation. For example, I have a data set that has this name, and I have some variables or columns that I want to do something with it. And it'll generate sample code snippets that have the exact variable names and object names for those things that I want to do. And rather than having to search various online forums only to find an example that may not be exactly what I need or isn't quite right, this has been a big time saver for me. Now, of course, it's important to remember that these systems don't have perfect accuracy. There are times where I've gotten incorrect information, so you do have to be vigilant and remember that you are ultimately responsible for the content that you produce from these results. Perfect example of this is in an area where you think it would be tailor-made, but you have to be careful, and that's in language translation. Now, as a bilingual speaker of English and Spanish, I actually have had some success interacting with the model in Spanish and having it generate some text for me, like wishing my mom a happy birthday. But it'll sometimes get things wrong or make things up. Here's a quick story. In my very first generative AI workshop with the FAS Institutional research team, I asked the model to provide me some examples of how to say thank you in Mandarin. Now, mind you, I have 4 native Mandarin speakers on the team. And when we reviewed the answers, they said some of the answers were correct, but others were completely wrong. Like, that's not how you say that. So you want to make sure that if you're using it for translation, that you have some local expertise to help check your work. I tried something similar, actually, trying to translate a greeting, figure out some greetings in Puerto Rican Spanish, and it came up with some truly bizarre and borderline inappropriate responses. So now, thanks to Hewitt, there's an interesting article from Wired Magazine explaining how AI chatbots are less fluent in languages other than English, with the implication being that for now, it may do a better job coming from another language into English rather than vice versa. So if you want more information, you can check out this link here. It'll be interesting to see if this area gets better over time, and I think it will as the models get populated with more updated information. Now, all that said, my experience has been really positive. These models have helped me with productivity and creativity, and I hope sharing some of these examples has been useful and reassuring to you. Note that I've also created another short video about generative AI where I provide tips to writing prompts. So check that out if you're interested in learning more. And if you have questions or want to explore some ideas about how generative AI might be useful to you, you can reach out to me at the email address listed here. Good luck.